when you have this perception, how did you feel like that? In many other countries, they have the same problem as mine, you know, because you always think that in other countries are better than us, you know, but then we realize like, oh, they have the same background.
Yeah.
Like, they just changed the address, you know?
Yeah. Oh my God. I always talk about this to my friends. Always. Because it's like, anytime I go to a Latin American event and I talk to someone about politics, they're like, oh, Jesus, our country is so bad. Oh, Brazil, I swear to God, there's so much going on. And then I say, oh, my friends from Venezuela. I don't want to be Venezuela, you know? It's like, I talk to someone from Argentina and they'll be like, oh, there's so much bad happening in Argentina. And then I'll be saying, I have a friend from Bolivia, and they're like, oh, Jesus Christ, thank God I don't live in Bolivia, you know? So it's like that a lot. And then a lot of my friends are from like Mexico as well and stuff, and Honduras as well, Panama. So they all have different issues as well. Like there was a protest going on there last week about the mining contract in Panama. So they're destroying the natural beauty of the country. But the thing is I always talk about this and my friends absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I was like, because of internal conflicts of all these countries and because of the divides of language barriers from the Spanish and Portuguese speaking countries, that it always feels like countries are being left out of different events. And my friends are like, they didn't believe me. And then when we went to one of the events, they were like, I was like, oh, do you see any there's no Brazilians around here, you know? It's like, or I go to another event and they'd be like, oh, is there anyone? Oh, there is people missing, you know? So it's like that. It's a lot of nepotism and separatism. Even in Ireland, there's nepotism and separatism between countries, but obviously that's because of the political sides of the countries. It always feels like that if something happens to Brazilians, none of the rest of the Latin countries are going to stand with them.
Why you think they don't stand with, like, maybe like xenophobia? Is that right? Say
Xenophobia.
Yeah, xenophobia or something.
I don't know. See, my friends were explaining to me that it was to do with politics and different things, like because there's different understandings, and it's not everyone. Obviously, it's not everyone. You can't like hit everyone with the same brush. But I do see it a lot, and I have that kind of realization now. I will be shot down for shit like that, but it is that's why I see it from the perspective is that if something happens, they don't go like they'd stand with other countries, but they won't stand with the people that are kind of around their countries, you know. And I always try and address these kind of issues because it's one of these things. Even in my songs, I address it. It's like, oh, you're separating all these countries. Oh, do you know what's happening in Honduras? And I would say it to one of them, and they'd be like, no, I don't know what's happening in Honduras, and tell them, oh, this is what's happening in Honduras. There's floods, there's people running out, there's people that are... And then they'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. And then I'd say, oh, do you know what's happening in Venezuela? And it's like, I like to keep up to date with all these different things, like, because there's a lot of issues. El Salvador as well, they're clamping down on the gang issue. The president that's stood up now and is clamping down on the gang issues and the politics in there. But they're all very similar issues, and it's like if you unite all these countries together, there'd be a much more bigger like outcome for the world, and then they'd be like, oh, they're getting their voices heard, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to happen.
But like people say, like 20 years ago, Ireland was like so empty, and then like from that, the country like got big, and I think the politics problems, like new politics problems arose. But how do you feel about it? Like, do you feel like the country like turns to a better place, or just change the problems? You know.
See, the thing is that you have no voices, and like I always say, the way that we speak is gonna affect the next generation, because I do have my friends that are like have kids that are like, say, Venezuelan Irish, or they'd be like Brazilian Irish or whatever. So there's the next generation that we're gonna speak. So we have to realize that when we say when people, I hate the phrase, I absolutely despise it, and I always question. It's like, oh, we need to look after our own, and I was like, what do you mean look after your own? Oh, you mean he's not one of our own? But he's been living here for like 10 to 15 years and he has children here. What are you going to say he's not one of our own? He is one of our own. And I always get like backlash from that. They're like, oh, you know what I mean? You know what I'm... Come on, cop on. Like, it's not... Like, look after your own is not a philosophy, because like the people that come in and provide and help and build in society should be treated fairly, should be treated with respect, because they deserve it, you know. They come from really bad countries, they come and build a life, have a family. Like I said there a few minutes ago, they sacrifice so many things and they're not getting treated with the level of respect that they deserve. And yeah, it's good because you have different voices now.
Yeah.
You now have different languages. You have people speaking Portuguese. Now there's a big influence of Portuguese. There's a big influence of Spanish, Polish, you know, so many other languages. But yeah, that philosophy doesn't work for me. Look after your own. No.
Yeah, I think sometimes people could just get tired of this politics, you know, like changing the country and then just the problem change and have to face another kind of, you know, this situation. Like for me, I came to Europe like to travel, you know, like to know new places, but don't think about that problem. But that they just came to my phone, you know, like I follow most the news about Rio. So I think, for example, I see a lot of people like worrying about the Palestinian stuff and Israel, but then on the next week I saw like a very bad issue in Rio, and I was thinking like, man, we have our own terrorists, you know. Like, yeah, maybe that's the thought about it.
No, that's so true. Like people do question me on what do you think of the Israel and Palestine issue? What do you think of the Ukraine and Russia issue? And my response to that is that I can't really have an opinion on it. It's a bad situation, obviously, but I can't have an opinion on it because I don't know much about it. Yeah. It's not I don't know enough knowledge. I know that kind of comes across as a little bit selfish, but I don't know. I can understand from the perspective of Europe, Latin America and Africa how they all connect, but I didn't look in deep enough when I was a child about the Palestine and the Israel conflict or the Ukraine and Russia conflict. I don't know much about it. All my friends probably know more than me. But I can't speak on stuff that I don't have a perspective on. I can only see my perspective on the things and opinion, and I can't give my opinion on that because my opinion will probably be wrong, and I'll be like, "Oh, you're wrong." Yeah. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm not going to speak on it.
Yeah, I think that's why maybe a lot of people like keep their minds with them. You know, like for me, example, like I have my own opinion for many things, but I keep with myself because I'm afraid like to say something very shitty, you know. You know. So yeah, but I think like by the time, I don't know, like the words is getting crazy, you know. We came with, like, for example, in this continent, we have many wars through the years, and now they're having more and more and more. Like, and when I was like young, I was thinking like, okay, we have this war, now we're having peace, but then they start another thing in another place. Like, what? Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's it.
I sometimes I feel the politics sucks, but we need to worry about it. Like, but it's hard, you know, because like you go to the street with signs and then speak, and then a couple months later, other things just happen, you know. Não sai desse vídeo. Você acabou de assistir um corte do Talkeando Podcast e para assistir esse episódio completo, o link tá bem na descrição desse vídeo. E não deixa de se inscrever no nosso canal e compartilhar com seus amigos e familiares. Valeu? Talkeando Podcast.